This is what a $100 biceps curl looks like. And this is what a $5,000 biceps curl looks like. And today I'm going to show you the differences between these two types of biceps curls, the exact way to perform the perfect curl, and why the curl that's 100 times cheaper might actually be the better one for you. All right, so this is the Prime Fitness Selectorized Preacher Curl. It runs you for about $5,000, and that is before shipping. And the reason that it's so expensive is because it's such an awesome machine. There are 6 key features to this machine, and the 6th and final feature is definitely the most unique and rare about this machine. The first is that it's selectorized, which is basically just a fancy word to say that it is pin loaded and that you can adjust it super easily. This pin loading not only makes progression seamless and easy, but you can also just adjust the little thing on top to add increments of 5, 10, or 15 pounds. The second feature is a highly adjustable and comfortable seat. The third feature is that it has an adjustable handle, which actually allows each hand to form its own comfortable position because the handles aren't combined into one. The fourth thing, as a consequence of this, is that you could do it easily one arm or two arm at the same time. Now, these last two features are really the ones that make this particular machine unique. First is that the arc of motion of the machine mimics the motion that your elbow naturally follows. In other words, much like the hand moves through an arc as you go through a curl, the handle actually perfectly matches the arc of most people's forearm lengths so that the motion feels really smooth and comfortable on your shoulders and really just does a great job at isolating your biceps. Now, the 6th and final feature that makes this the most unique, absolutely, is the resistance profile adjustment. What you'll notice is that this machine comes with a cam. This is weird sort of oval shaped thing. And when you adjust the cam to different positions, you actually change where the motion is hardest. So if you put it to this setting, it actually makes it hardest toward the bottom. And if you flip it to this setting, it actually makes it hardest toward the top. This is a very convenient way to adjust the difficulty of the exercise so that you can make it harder in the stretch position or harder in the squeeze position. And you can also navigate elbow pain and elbow related issues very easily because most of the time, only one portion of the range tends to bother people. So you can simply just make it lighter in the range that's more uncomfortable for you and heavier where you feel stronger. Okay, so before we move on to the dumbbell curl, which by the way might actually be better for some of you, which I'll explain later, I want to just give you an extremely brief tutorial on how to actually set up and execute a perfect curl on the Preacher Curl machine. And remember, you don't need the Prime Fitness machine to do this. It could be any Preacher Curl machine. Step 1, set the seat to a height that allows you to smush your chest bone into the pad. Step 2, place your arms so that they're perpendicular to the bench. The crooks of your elbows should face toward the ceiling. Step number 3, place the handle in the lowest part of the palm toward the base of the thumb. If it's more comfortable for you, you can even wrap your thumb around the handle. Step 4, as you begin to curl, make sure you're actually aiming your hand toward your face and not upward toward the ceiling. This is so that you can actually align your path of motion with the direction the machine is moving. As you do this, make sure your chest and the back of your arms stay locked into the pad the entire time. Now, the 5th and final step is a bonus, which is to set the resistance profile of this machine so that it's heaviest in the bottom. And if your Preacher Curl machine doesn't actually have a cam that can pivot, what you can do is simply shift yourself upward on the seat so that the angle of the handle actually becomes more acute. This will make it harder toward the bottom where you're a little stronger and lighter toward the top where you're a little weaker. All right, so the dumbbell curl, it has 4 amazing features, and much to your surprise, it might actually be the more appropriate curl for you. Why? Well, first and foremost, you can actually adjust the resistance profile of this motion really easily. All you have to do is change the angle of the bench. If you set the bench at a lower angle, it'll be harder when your elbow is more straight, i.e. in the stretched position. If you raise the angle of the bench closer to 90 degrees, it will be harder when your elbow is more bent, i.e. in the squeezed or shortened position. Of course, the machine can do that, so that's not unique to the dumbbell, but what is unique and special about the dumbbell is that you can rotate the dumbbell any which way that you want. Your hand is free moving, it's not fixed to an implement like on the machine. And this actually can really matter because subtle differences in forearm and palm position can be the difference between people experiencing pain and discomfort and not. So this dumbbell curl variation actually has a leg up, in my opinion, compared to the machine because it has that freedom of motion, which may be really important for some people. Now, in addition to that, you also have a complete ability to adjust your shoulder position. Unlike on the machine, which may be a little bit limited because of the fact that the machine is fixed and you can't change the angle of it, simply by changing the angle of the bench, you can train a shoulder position that is higher up or that is lower down. You could even stand in front of the bench to some degree and do a curl so that your arm is at your side or even behind your body. So the degree of shoulder position change and adjustability is much greater with the dumbbell, much like the freedom to rotate the hand is. And last but certainly not least is the fact that dumbbells, wherever you go, are dumbbells, meaning that you can standardize and track progress extremely easily, and you can also just standardize the angle of the bench that you're using. Most benches in most gyms have clear indications of what the angle is, and if you don't know what the angle is, then you can simply just use a measurement tool on your iPhone to determine that. So unlike machines, which can vary drastically in terms of their quality from gym to gym, not to mention the fact that most gyms probably do not have this prime arm curl machine, dumbbells are dumbbells and benches are benches no matter where you go. So while the dumbbell might not feel immediately as smooth or buttery as stable as the machine curl does, keep in mind that it has all these other upsides, which mainly lie in the fact that you have much more freedom to adjust your body and body position around the dumbbell, and you have an ability to standardize the load and the progression much more easily across different scenarios and across longer timelines. So just to finish this off, here's a very brief dumbbell curl tutorial. Set the bench at an angle that's best for your goal. If you want to load more of the stretch, set the bench angle lower, maybe around 45 degrees. If you want to load more of the squeeze, set the bench angle higher, closer to 90 degrees. I personally love a middle ground around 60 degrees. That's my favorite angle to use. Place your entire arm so that it is perfectly parallel to the bench. The backside of your elbow, that really pointy thing back here, should be jammed directly into the pad, not at an angle, but directly into it. Place the dumbbell in the lowest part of your palm so that it's not falling toward the edge of the hand. And then finally, as you perform the curl, make sure you're curling your hand toward your face and not upward toward the ceiling so that the back of your arm and your shoulders stay glued to the pad. So what's the important moral of the story here? Yeah, are expensive machines awesome? Absolutely, but dumbbells can be just as effective and in some cases even more effective depending on the context for you and your specific goals.